Welcome to Michael Potts F1, everything Formula One, but from a photographer's point of view. It's Formula One car launch season. That's when all the Formula One teams get to show us their new liveries for the 2023 season. The first team to get us out of the blocks is Haas. This is the 8th year the American team has been involved in Formula One, and for their launch, they released a series of digital renderings of their new livery on last year's car. So we're not going to learn anything new about their 2023 contender in this launch. If you do like this sort of content, please do like and subscribe. I'll be covering every single one of the car launches, and during the course of the season, I'll be trackside for the races, giving you a unique perspective, that from a Formula One photographer. Haas's 2023 entry is a visual departure from last year's car, and it signals the start of a new partnership with title sponsor MoneyGram. Starting with the front view, there's a lot of traditional Haas elements here. They've used a similar visual motif as they have in the past. There's a noticeable change to the nose, whereas it was more rounded in the past. It's now much more purposeful. The front-on view does appear to be recognisably Haas, and that's important for the team as they're reasserting their own identity. The view from the side is quite different, and here it almost looks like a bit of a different car. There's a lot of black, and that works well with the white lines, giving a sense of speed and movement. MoneyGram logo appears on the engine cover, and it adds a bit of a sense of direction with that arrow in the logo. The car looks pretty decent from the top too. There's strong lines following the contours, and it's giving it a really pleasing look. They've managed to integrate a lot of the car's structural elements, such as the cooling slots, into the design. I quite like this white line that dots out towards the exhaust. It's a lovely bit of detailing. Generally speaking, this is a very good, very solid, pretty safe design from Haas. It's not over the top or spectacular, but it's probably the start of a new phase in Haas's development. They've signed reliable midfield driver Nico Hülkenberg, and they've gone with a very sensible title sponsor in MoneyGram. This is hopefully Haas repositioning themselves as a much more consistent, much more credible midfield contender. Looking back over Haas's 8 years in Formula One, Haas started their F1 adventure with a very simple, understated black, grey and red design. There were few logos, but it was a solid opening season with Romain Grosjean scoring all of the team's 29 points. Esteban Gutierrez was the other driver. They finished 8 out of 11 teams in that first season in 2016. In 2017, Gutierrez was out and Magnussen was in. With both drivers scoring, they managed to get 47 points, but that was still only good enough for 8th place. Their 2018 challenger looked very similar to their first car. This was the best season so far for the American team. They achieved 5th place in the championship. In 2019, they looked to kick on from that success. They brought in their first title sponsor, Rich Energy. And they had a brand new livery, black and gold, echoing the 1970s and 80s John Player special cars, which were utterly gorgeous. The car looked amazing, but sometimes looks can be deceiving. And here we need to take a little bit of a step back to look at Rich Energy and what they brought to the party. Rich Energy are a British energy drink company. They were founded in 2015 by immensely bearded William Storey. The company had created a lot of hype online. You couldn't buy Rich Energy anywhere. At one of the events, they did bring some of their cans to the paddock, so I have tried it, and it tastes quite nice. I still haven't seen any shop that sells it. Everything blew up over the Silverstone weekend of 2019. Rich Energy's Twitter account posted that they had terminated the partnership with Haas, but that was just the start of an internal power struggle within Rich Energy that was being fought all over social media. By the Italian Grand Prix, the deal was completely dead. So in 2020, the team returned to a much more traditional Haas livery. But the results weren't there, and they dropped to 9th place, and the team only scored in 2 races. With mounting financial pressure, the team opted to replace both drivers, Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen, with 2 rookies, Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. Mazepin bought considerable backing from his father's Uralkali company, and they became title sponsors. The 2021 car's livery was heavily influenced by the Russian flag, which was a bit controversial at the time, as Russian athletes weren't allowed to compete under the Russian flag. Mazepin raced that year using the Russian Automobile Federation standard. Despite the huge injection of cash from Uralkali, the team decided not to develop that year's car, instead focusing on the 2022 car, so they could maximize the advantage they would get from the new rules. It was no surprise that the team finished last in 2021, but it was theoretically in a good place for 2022. It had 2 drivers who now had a year's experience of Formula One, and they had invested heavily in that car. Only During winter testing, Russia launched its war against the Ukraine. Haas decided to remove all Russian branding. They ended their relationship with Uralkali and also with Nikita Mazepin. The car that arrived for the first race was predominantly white with red highlights. And replacing Nikita Mazepin was former driver Kevin Magnussen. He managed to score an outstanding 5th place in the opening race. And although they finished the season in 8th place, there was the potential in the car to achieve more. So in 2023, Haas have a new driver in Nico Hülkenberg, who comes in place of Mick Schumacher. The Hulk is very experienced. He first raced in 2010 for Williams. He's also driven for Force India, Sauber, Renault, Racing Point, Aston Martin, making Haas the 7th team he's represented. 7th in 2018 is his highest championship finish. He has 181 race starts, he scored 521 points, he has 1 pole position and 2 fastest laps. The 35-year-old also has the unfortunate honour of holding the record for the most races and most points without a podium. He has won the Le Mans 24 Hours driving for Porsche, which is a huge achievement. He'll be alongside long-serving Haas driver Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen joined the team in 2017. During his career, he has 142 race starts, he scored 183 points, he has 1 podium, which was a 2nd place in his first race, and 1 pole position and 2 fastest laps. Both drivers were exceptionally talented juniors, and they had a lot of potential, but unfortunately their careers didn't develop the way that people expected. Haas is a bit of an opportunity for them to get a bit of redemption. They've both fought incredibly hard to stay in Formula One. Neither having the financial backing that other drivers had, they've had to survive in Formula One on talent alone. But it just shows their determination that they're still here, they're still racing. Last year, Haas showed a lot of promise, but the results were very inconsistent. I'm sure the team will be looking to these 2 drivers to deliver more frequently at the high end of the car's potential. With MoneyGram as a serious title sponsor, they now have the funds to operate at the top end of the financial budget cap. They've proven over the last 8 years that they're a very tough, very resilient little racing team. They've had some crazy teenage years, made some bad choices, but now they're starting to mature. And I think we're going to see a much more consistent, a much more competitive midfield team. And I think they're going to be a proper force to be reckoned with in 2023. Thank you for watching this review of the Haas livery launch. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like this design? Was last year's better? What do you think the team's prospects are going to be for the year? If you'd like to buy any of my photographs of the Haas team, there's a link in the description below. And if you've enjoyed this and you haven't yet liked and subscribed, please do so. It really helps me grow the channel. The next launch promises to be a spectacular affair. It's Red Bull in New York on the 3rd of February. I'll be bringing you all of those details. So until next time, goodbye.